Hello again, Galilea and Daniela. Okay, let's go to the, I believe I have a couple of more things to teach about the poster, if you don't know how to do it yet. Basically, how to do the partial graphs from the data from the spreadsheet. These two partial graphs at the bottom, below the general graph. Here we go, these two down here. And also how to do the StatCrunch sections here, okay, on section 3 of the poster. Probably I can do it in one more session, recording session, so let's give it a try. First, let's look at these two graphs at the bottom of the second section of the poster, the middle of the poster. Here we go, make it a little bigger. Head in there. Okay, now it's in the center. So the density below and the density above 1,000. This comes again from the spreadsheet, from the Excel. So let's go to that Excel spreadsheet here. I'm going to minimize this previous graph that we did. The other two are very similar in composition, but we just limit the data to the sections above and below 1,000 persons per square kilometer. And now let's see, we have it ranked. We look at column A. Column A is the nations of the world. Column B is the population density ranked by the highest number to the lowest number. So you can see that our data is going to break here, the two graphs. It's going to be density above 1,000, which is Bermuda with 1,200, and density below 1,000, starting with the Palestinian territories at almost 850 persons per square kilometer, down, all right? So we see that these small group of countries that have a density above 1,000 are only 11, because keep in mind here it says 12, but the first row is taken up by the title of each column. The first row, row number 1, is taken up by the title of each column, right? Column A, B, C, D, etc. So we have to subtract 1 whenever we look at this column here. And we saw that here is the break between 1,000 more or less population density of 1,000. Says 12, but minus 1 is 11 countries. So bottom line, we have these 11 countries that have a population density above 1,000. And then every other country below has a density below 1,000. And we know that we have a total of 230, so minus 11 is about 220 countries. 220 countries have a population density less than 1,000, all the way down to 1 or 0. And this is our graph here. You can see that a lot of this graph is just what I had before. I'm going to erase that on the graph to get it out of the way. See if I can make it a little smaller to fit it in my whole screen. There we go. Now I got the whole graph on my screen. Hopefully you can see the whole graph here. So this is already built up, constructed, okay, for densities above 1,000. You already know how to make the title of the plot or graph. and then bring it down into the area of the plot. You already know how to limit this to 2000 on the y-axis. And so on the x-axis, let's see how we limit it to 100 to 11. If you click on the black line of the data series, you see that all I'm doing is plotting these 11 countries. So again, if I click outside, all I would do is I always work from the bottom up, so I can stop short of including the title. I don't want to include the title into the data. So I find the first country from the bottom up, which is Bermuda here with 1,200 people, and then click in and hold the click, push up. This is the left click on the mouse, push up until I get to the boundary, the upper limit here. Now I have highlighted those 11 numbers, these 11 figures, numbers that I'm going to plot. And these are the 11 numbers that are ranked down here. Again, from the highest, close to 20,000 on the black line, to number 11 with 1,200 people. And then what I would do is I would go up and just make the plot the same way. I want to insert a chart, which is going to be a line chart. Here's the icon for the line chart. And line there, well, it's doing a new one. Okay, so let's work on this new one. Here's the line chart. And then you would format it the same way that we formatted the other one for the full graph. You would format it the same way until you come up with this kind of design. So you would thicken the line, make it black, and then develop the trend line, and also develop your labels here, your legend, the solid black line and the dotted red line. These are the legend for the graph. What is still missing here on this plot is the labels for the X and the Y axis. So remember, you highlight the whole table, and then you go in Chart Tools Design, in the Design tab, go across to the left, extreme left icon, Add Chart Element. Add Chart Element, click in there, and then you get the axis title, primary horizontal axis. There's the little text box that appears, click in it, erase what it says there, which is axis title. That's not informative, erase that with your delete and backspace buttons on the keyboard, and then type in the actual title of that x-axis, which is ranking. Okay, then click outside to see how it looks. There it is, ranking. And you do the same for the y-axis. Go back to, you have to click into the chart to activate the chart, and then under Chart Tools, Design, Design tab, all the way to the left. Then you choose Axis Titles, and you want to choose the primary vertical title. And my suggestion is that you keep it like that. You keep it vertical as it moves. Again, you can click in there and just type away what the label of that axis is. That, once we have this chart finished the way we want it in Excel, then you click on the white part of the chart, somewhere to activate the entire chart, and you notice that the little margins are activated with the little circles at each corner, and halfway in between each corner there's a little circle. That means that the chart area is activated. Now just click, I usually click on the blank side, right click until I get this menu, and then choose copy. So now that has the chart in its memory. And we go to our experimental poster here. There's the experimental poster. What's happening? Oh, it's loading. There is the experimental poster, still missing the chart, the graph. Take a little bit to download. There it is. And I just want to scroll down a little bit. The other blank area and right click inside the poster area. Right click and paste. I usually use the first option here. Paste. Use the destination format, it says. Not too critical for graphs. For text, it's more critical. Okay, so here's a chart, which by the way comes with a transparent background, which is convenient because then since the poster background is white, you can just move it to where you need. Let's see, move this over a little bit, bring it further down so I get the clear area. Oops, too much. I also need to pick up, oh, here's the chart. Drag it down. There. See, again, my laptop is a little slow. So you can drag the chart to where you want it. You can compress it a little bit so you fit two of them. There it is. Then you have your label here, which is from the previous poster. Like I mentioned, the shell, what you need to do is erase this actual text and type in the relevant text. And also you need to change this table 1 into figure, whatever figure number is on the sequence. So you put all that information there in the caption of the figure itself, which is going to be that graph. All right. You can also duplicate this if you only have one little text box for one chart, but you're going to have another chart next to it. You can highlight the whole text. This is essentially a text box. You can highlight the whole text box and then right click on it. Back inside, click on the edge where it becomes a solid line, right click, and then copy, and then paste. And go back to that right click and paste. And you see how it gives us a second, it's like a clone of the first tag, the first label. It's essentially a copy, identical copy, and then you can drag this one here to the other area where you're going to have the other plot, and then click inside the text box, and again, change that text to what you need to make it informative. Now, finally, what we have left is how to get the data from StatCrunch into our poster, which is going to be, oh, let me see, I just want to go back. Where's our poster? Put that down. Here's our poster. Okay, we're working on the right-hand side now. So this from StatCrunch, this image. Again, what one needs to do is you need to go to StatCrunch, and we get it from the actual program of StatCrunch. Essentially, it's going to be a copy and paste. So let's go to StatCrunch for a moment. Stat crunch is coming up slowly but surely. And account there already, or if you didn't have your own account, I think I gave you my number to use. I'm going to sign right. You have the data already in mind. So here I have it defaulted already with my account information, sign in. Let's just use one example. Here it is, COVID-19 correlation below 1,000 in Galilea. Now we're going to do stat. So you always see the label of the Excel. This is an Excel file that was imported, that I imported into my account. And you always want to make the title informative, all right, the best way possible. And I typically write titles in capital letters also. It's just easier for me to see. So I check that the title is informative, is the Excel spreadsheet that I want, is the data set that I want. And now from the tabs here, we're doing stat down to regression. We're doing a simple linear regression. And we need to choose our, let's just do one for the infection versus deceased. So on the y-axis, we want to have infected. And on the, on the x-axis, we want infected. That's the independent variable. And on the y-axis, we want disease, because the disease necessarily had to come from the infected. So the disease is dependent on the infected and not vice versa. Now that we have the two variables determined, the program will actually pick up the data from the spreadsheet, from the Excel that was uploaded, and just compute. Now we have the window that you're familiar with the results expanded. You notice how, like this, it's got moving bars here, up and down, moving bars left and right. That's because the original window is too small. But you can expand that window so that it covers the whole area. And you can see, you can leave a little bit of margin on the right and a little bit of margin underneath, but you don't want a big margin. You want it to be more or less proportional to the other margins here. You see how there's a margin on the left and a margin on the top. And so you work it similar to PowerPoint in the sense that you grab a corner. This is, first of all, it's highlighted, so you click into it, let's say the gray bar on the top, that highlights this window, and then you can grab the corner, and you can move, well, you have flexibility, you can move it. It doesn't move proportional necessarily, you see? So you can move it to where all of the data is in clear vision, and nothing is being held back behind the scenes, if you will. We can see all of the data clearly. And now all we do is, I usually do it here in the gray area. I right click I think it's right click save as. Let's try that. No. I remember what I did now. So I use a print screen. I have my data here that I want to import into the PowerPoint poster. There may be another way of doing this, but one easy way that I know is you look on the top keys of your keyboard, the top keys, usually toward the right, there's one that says PRTSC. PRTSC, it stands for print screen, PRTSC, all right? It's one of the keys on your keyboard, typically on the upper right-hand side of the keyboard. So click into that and you really won't see anything unless you notice the little flash on the hand that is pointing, this little hand that is pointing. Okay, you'll see a little flash there. Sometimes not even that. Okay, but when you click into that PRTSC, when you click that key, print screen, the computer has taken a copy, a photograph, has taken a digital photograph of your screen. Something similar can be done on the phone, on the iPhones, all right? So now the memory bank, the memory storage of the computer has a temporary memory of a digital photograph of your whole screen, the whole screen. And now what we do is we go to the poster. Sorry. Yeah, there's another reason why I was using this presentation one, this blank. I told you I had a blank slide come up or open a blank slide. So here, it's just easy enough to do it here in the blank slide because I don't have anything in the background. Right click and paste. Right click and paste. And now see, this is the print screen. This is a screen. It's a photograph, digital photograph of the screenshot, a screenshot. Okay, so now I need to get a hold of one corner because we're gonna crop this and we're just gonna crop the little table here. I bring the printed screen down a little bit, the screenshot, I bring it down so that I can see one of the corners. Because typically the screenshot is larger than the slide. So I need to minimize it a little bit, bring it down a little bit. I need to grab this corner, any of the four corners, just grab it with the left click and hold and bring down, make it smaller. And now I can put the smaller screenshot inside the slide. Okay, this is a temporary slide where I'm going to just crop out the outside, everything that is irrelevant to the photo that I want, because I just want the table of the actual value, the actual statistics. So you notice that it's highlighted and it's active and open, this tab here that says Picture Tools Format, right? Picture Tools Format. Click in there, open this tab, and on the ribbon to the right, you see this option of crop. This tool, crop, all right? So click into crop, and you notice that on your screenshot, what appears is these margins, this dark bands, this dark margins on the corners and on the sides, on the corners and the sides, and they coincide with the bubbles, with the circles on the activated screenshot. What I do is I grab one corner and bring it down, and then I grab the other corner and come from the opposite direction. So what this little corner does, if you grab it, you mouse over it until you get the same angle. See how I'm getting the same angle there? Once I have the same right angle, I left click on the mouse and hold and drag down. So I can drag down both sides at once. I can drag down the whole corner, so I can drag down the left margin. You see it being grayed out. Whatever is grayed out is going to be cut out. It's going to be cropped out. So I can drag the left margin up to the graph, up to the table, sorry. And I can also move the top margin down so that I make that little cross coincide with the upper left corner of the table. The upper left corner of the table, and then I release. And so you see, it has brought the cropping tool to the table itself. Then I go to the lower right and grab that other corner, left click, hold, and bring it up until I bring it to the corner of the table itself, of the StatCrunch table, the results table. Once I match those two angles, I release, and that's it. And then click outside, click anywhere outside, and you see the extraneous stuff has gone away. All I have now is this table, clean. I highlight it, I click anywhere inside, highlight it, and then right click, copy. And then I can go over to my poster, experimental poster, there. And then find the spot where I'm going to dump it or paste it. Remember, I did a copy, so now it's temporarily in the virtual memory of the computer. I'm going to replace it. I'm going to replace it for this table here that I have from the previous poster shell. So I just highlight this old table, highlight it, click anywhere inside the table, and then delete. And then right click, and the new menu comes up, choose paste. Again, the first paste option on the left. And here it is, but it typically dumps it on the upper left-hand corner of the slide. So you need to find it on the upper left-hand corner of the slide, and then you need to drag it over. At least that's the way I do it. It may be primitive, but I'm stuck with that method. Just drag it over, click and hold and drag. And it's coming. We'll worry about the size later in a minute. Bring your poster section to the center. Keep dragging. There it is. Now I have my table in place, but you see it's very tiny. So you know what to do. You grab one of the corners, one of the four corners, and just pull out so that it grows proportionately. And then you can move it into the center. And it's still kind of small, so you need to bring it up to where it's legible. And you want to have at least the labels inside or the text inside that box. You want it to match more or less, at least, I would say, close to the size, the font size, the point size of your font, which now is showing Arial 24 of your text. All right, so the point size of your text, more or less, so that it's visible and readable. So I need to open a little bit more. The more you open it, the larger you make it, well, the more space it's going to take, unfortunately. But you notice that you can do some further cropping, really, because we don't need this top bar where it says options 1 of 2. And we don't need this bottom section either, because we're hurting for top and bottom space. We're hurting for that space for the text. So we can just delete it and go back to the working document, that blank here. This one, the blank slide. If you click on that slide, well, you can just do a new cropping, because we're going to get rid of. Here, you can also use, I just discovered, you highlight the table of interest in PowerPoint in a slide, right click, oops, right click, and you can choose crop right there. Okay, so you see the table, the background is still there. The background is still there because it's saved in the memory of the computer. But you can grab that corner again and bring it further down so you get rid of that top margin where it says option and so forth. That's extraneous to the data itself. And you can also grab down here. You can grab by a corner, or you can grab it in the center. You see, I'm grabbing the center little bar and moving up. So I'm gaining space from the bottom that again had a label that was not informative. So now click outside again, and there is a cleaner table, right? So now you click inside the table and then right click until you get the menu for copy. And then we go back to our poster, experimental, coming up, just loading. There it is. Okay, and now right click and paste. And then rescue it from up there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lower the size of the poster so that I have all the columns, all the sections visible. Just come up here next to the logo of Miami-Dade College, click on the table and hold your left click and drag it down to place and then release. You gotta make the poster bigger again to see the scale. And it will clean up, there it is. And now just drag the corners out so that you can see the data. Okay. And then you click anywhere outside of the poster and you see how it's going to look. You can also move this if you want to move that table, fine move. You can use your up and down arrows. If you press on Control on your keyboard, highlight the table and press Control, simultaneously the up and down arrows moves it very slowly. One click at a time. When you have a fine little space in which you have to put it, you can center it by fine tuning. Again, it's you highlight the table or the figure, and then you hold down Control, and then you use the arrows on the lower right of the keyboard, the arrows down. You can just click. One click is less than a millimeter. And there's right click, it's moving. If you hold it down, it'll move faster, but there's still increments of very tiny amounts. So this is good when you need to work in a particular area and you're tight in space and you need to move it very, very gently, a little tiny hair away from the text or whatever else is in there. Okay, again, hold down Control and use your arrow keys to move the chart or the figure, whatever it is, around, up and down, left and right. I think that's basically it. For the rest, what do we have at the bottom? We have the references, which are just the online addresses, right? The online addresses. And here we actually made a little mistake because normally on the online address, one will also write in parentheses access and then a date, 8/20/20. Okay, you want to write the date. Oops, I think I hit the wrong keyboard. Wrong key on the board. Go back to, yeah, close that parentheses. So you see this, or sometimes you see last accessed. If you're going to a site several times like we did, the last time that you access it. So last accessed. You see what I'm doing here to the reference? I'm anchoring it to a particular day because these references can change. For example, the population of a country is in constant flux, generally goes up, but it could go down. And the surface area is typically more stable, but population is changing all the time because some people are died and other people are being born. And therefore, it makes a difference when we collect our data. Okay, but for any online reference that we have, it's always the standard practice to put in parentheses the time, the day when that information was accessed. And finally, the acknowledgments is still the same because I believe this is like a 3-year grant and this is from last year. Is the same acknowledgement and also the same disclaimer. The last sentence is what is known as a disclaimer. In other words, that Miami-Dade College or St. Thomas University does not claim to have the same opinion as the opinion that is being put forth in the poster. And this is a standard line, as you can see, that is put for all scientific posters and all scientific research and presentations. The institutions that sponsor this research don't necessarily hold the same views or opinions or conclusions, right? So that's a standard disclaimer. I think I have everything. I'm going to send this third video now. If there's anything that you want to ask or comment, feel free to do that. You can either email me or just call me on the phone. I'm going to be tied up now for the next 3 or 4 hours, but I should be free after 6 p.m. Today, Saturday, and maybe we can touch bases a little later this evening by phone or maybe a Zoom session that you're in it together to discuss anything else. Okay, or any questions you have about the poster itself or the project. Okay, I'm going to close this now, and hopefully we'll talk a little later.